Caninsulin is one of the most serious and potentially dangerous treatments you can administer to your dog or cat. So in this video, I am going to tell you what Caninsulin is, how you administer it, and everything you need to know about insulin. And at the end, I'm going to tell you the most important bit, and that is what should you feed your dog or cat if they have diabetes mellitus. So Caninsulin is specifically formulated for dogs and cats with diabetes mellitus, and this is the most common form of diabetes in both dogs and cats and humans as well. It plays a huge role in helping regulate blood sugar levels, which can become dangerously elevated for our pets with diabetes due to their body's inability to produce enough insulin. So what is insulin? Insulin is a crucial hormone that helps regulate sugar levels. It is a hormone that allows cells to absorb glucose, this is sugar, from the bloodstream to use as energy. In diabetic pets, this becomes impaired, leading to hyperglycemia, which is elevated sugar levels. Now, Caninsulin, what it does and what insulin does is provide the body with the insulin it needs, helping bring down blood glucose levels to normal range and avoiding any big spikes. So how do you administer it? Well, it's a subcutaneous injection, so it's done under the skin, and you normally do it twice a day around meals, because anytime your pet is eating, their blood sugar levels might deviate depending on what they eat. That's why it's so important that you pay attention to what they eat, and again, I am going to explain that later on in the video. So insulin starts acting just a few hours after you administer it, and then it continues for the next couple days. So if your dog or cat has been diagnosed with diabetes and they need to regulate their blood sugar levels, Caninsulin will help them do this. Now, there are certain risks, and these are extremely dangerous risks, and it's incumbent upon you to realize and to check that everything you are doing is by the book, because we see all the time that people do not do this correctly. So one of the most significant risks is hypoglycemia, and hypoglycemia is when blood sugar levels are way too low. And again, what we do not want is huge deviations in blood sugar level. We want those sugar levels as normal as possible. We don't want any huge dips. So if your dog is lethargic, has a bit of confusion, weakness, seizures, or even collapses, these are all signs of a medical emergency, and you should seek veterinary assistance as soon as possible. The second risk, and this is a medium to long-term problem, is insulin resistance. As with many medications, once you take them for a very long period of time, they become a little less effective and a little less efficient at doing their job. So if your dog or cat is holding on to more water, or they become a little bit more podgy as the time goes on, that's a very clear indication that the insulin is not doing its job properly. Again, that could also be the diet you are providing your dog or cat with. Now, we also have certain very rare allergic reactions, and some pets might suffer from irritation of the skin. But in my opinion, one of the most risky things you can do is overdose Caninsulin to your pet and not understanding sugar levels correctly. So if you accidentally administer too much insulin to your pet, this can have extremely serious consequences. Another very serious long-term risk is, once again, obesity. If your pet is gaining weight or has gained weight over time, you really need to pay attention to that. Now, in order to understand Caninsulin, we have to tie up the food you are providing your dogs with, and we need to delve deep into the role of carbohydrates and the role of high glycemic carbohydrates in your pet's diet. Now, carbohydrates and diet are the focal point and should be the focal point of your pet's diet. High carbohydrate foods will interfere with the role of Caninsulin and blood regulation within your pet. So a bit of a crash course on carbohydrates and their conversion into glucose, into sugar. Carbohydrates are broken down into glucose, into sugar for the body to be able to use them. During digestion, this sugar enters then the bloodstream and raises blood sugar levels. In a healthy pet, insulin would quickly help the body absorb the sugar, and it is the very same thing for ourselves. However, in diabetic pets, especially those taking Caninsulin, a high carb diet is going to unnecessarily spike blood sugar levels, having a less than desirable effect on your dog's health. So anytime your dog consumes any carbohydrate, especially a refined carbohydrate or a very high glycemic carbohydrate, whenever we talk about high glycemic carbohydrates, think about wheat, barley, corn, think about rice, think about wheat gluten, for example. So if you see any of those ingredients on the back of your dog's food, you should put that food away immediately, even if your veterinarian has recommended something with corn or wheat gluten, because those very ingredients are going to completely mess up your dog's ability to control their blood sugar levels. Pets on high carb diets, on very high levels of starches, they are going to naturally need more insulin in order to bring down that blood glucose level. So the more carb heavy your dog's diet is, the less likely your dog is going to be able to control those blood glucose levels. Which leads me on to fat, which is a very contentious topic that veterinarians and a lot of doctors still do not understand. So excess carbohydrates turn into fat, into something called triglycerides within the liver. So if you eat pasta 5 times a day, pasta might be very low in fat, but because you are eating way too much pasta, your body is going to store the pasta as fat, as triglycerides within the liver. So a low-fat diet is not necessarily the best one for a dog with diabetes. A very low carbohydrate, a very low high glycemic carbohydrate diet is ideal for your dog's diet. When it comes to fat, when it comes to triglycerides, what we want to provide our pet with is healthy fats, moderate but healthy fats, because fats are going to have a very important role in the endocrine function of your pet, and they play a huge part on keeping your dog or cat healthy. So whenever we talk about low carb diets for dogs or cats with diabetes, do not look at fat. Always look at carbohydrates. Always look at high glycemic carbohydrates. Those are going to unnecessarily spike insulin levels, and they are going to be detrimental to your dog or cat's health. I cannot emphasize this enough. So what should your dog or cat eat if you are trying to manage blood sugar levels? You need to have a protein-rich, moderate fat and no to very low carbohydrate diet. Try to include fresh food in your dog or cat's diet, and that is going to surely help your pet. Stay away from anything that's ultra processed or very refined. So whenever it comes to treats, for example, we want those treats to be 100% meat or 100% of one single protein if we can. What we don't want to see is any wheat gluten, any rice, any tapioca, any potato. We don't want to see any sugar, for example, and those are very, very prevalent in dog and cat treats. And the same is going to be true for your pet's food. What we do not want to see is any wheat, any barley, any corn, any soy, and we do not want to see anything like that. We want to see a high meat, low carbohydrate diet. Now we see this all the time in our branches and consultations. People who fail to understand diabetes in their pets do not get to keep their pets for very long because they fundamentally misunderstand the condition and the risks associated with certain foods and certain diets. So I really do implore you to pay attention to this. Now we have a dog diabetes guide, and that has saved so many pet parents from not managing their pet's condition correctly. So the dog diabetes guide is going to give you everything you need to understand understand the disease and to understand how you can help your pet. And you can download it clicking in the link below. Caninsulin can be a lifesaver for so many pet parents, but you must be mindful of potential risks, and you need to pay attention to what your dog or cat is eating and how you can help your pet regulate blood sugar levels. And if you want to know more about fresh food and how we could help your pet, I highly encourage you to watch this video next.